Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why some people struggle with reading and how their brains might be wired differently when it comes to understanding sentences? Well, this new study dives deep into that exact question. Think about reading. It's not just about recognizing words, but understanding how they fit together in a specific order to make sense. Scientists have found something called the transposed word effect, or TWE for short. It's basically when readers accidentally misread a sentence where two words have swapped places. Non-dyslexic readers tend to make more mistakes or take longer when a sentence has these swapped words, especially if the original sentence made grammatical sense. This suggests they're relying on their knowledge of sentence structure to help them read. But what about people with dyslexia? That's the big question researchers Mahmoud, Elsherif, and Kevin B. Paterson wanted to answer. They were curious if dyslexic adults process word order the same way, or if their challenges with reading impact how they handle the sequence of words in a sentence. To figure this out, they designed a clever study. They looked at how adults, both with and without dyslexia, decided if a sentence was grammatically correct or not. They did this in 3 different ways, or what they call display types. The first one, the parallel display, showed the whole sentence all at once. Imagine seeing the entire sentence right in front of you, all at the same time. This is kind of like how we might skim or see a lot of information at once. Then they had a central display. This one was super interesting because it showed words one by one, right in the middle of the screen, for a short time before showing the next word. This way, you really had to focus on each word individually, without much help from where it was on the screen. And their third method, the progressive display, was meant to mimic how we naturally read. Words appeared one after another, but they were in the correct spot where they would be in a normal sentence. So you'd see the beginning of the sentence, then the middle, then the end, just like normal reading. But serially, they carefully matched their dyslexic and non-dyslexic participants on things like age and how much they usually read, to make sure they were comparing apples to apples. So what did they find? Well, the big news is that the transposed word effect, that confusion when words swap places, was indeed present in both dyslexic and non-dyslexic adults. This means that when words were out of order, everyone was a bit more likely to make mistakes and it took them a little longer. But here is where it gets really interesting. The way this effect showed up was different depending on how the sentences were presented and whether the person had dyslexia. For the non-dyslexic readers, that swapped word effect was strongest when they saw the whole sentence at once. In that parallel display, it was less of a problem when words were shown one by one. But for the dyslexic adults, it was the opposite. They showed a bigger difficulty with swapped words when the words were presented one by one, either in the center or progressing across the screen, but less so when the whole sentence was shown at once. What does this mean? The researchers suggest that this tells us something important about how dyslexic brains process information. For dyslexic individuals, dealing with the correct order of words seems to be extra hard, especially when they have to process them one after another. Like in natural reading, the way the words are presented, either all at once or bit by bit, really changes how much extra mental effort it takes for them to keep track of the sentence structure. It's like their brains have to work harder to hold onto the sequence of words, and this effort is more noticeable when the information comes in slowly and one piece at a time. This is a big deal because it suggests that challenges in dyslexia aren't just about recognizing individual words, but also about how those words are organized in time and space within a sentence. While non-dyslexic readers might rely more on the whole picture at once, dyslexic readers' struggles become more apparent when they have to process information sequentially, which is a core part of reading. Now, it is important to remember that this study, like any research, has its limits. They used a specific way to identify who had dyslexia, based on self-reporting and a questionnaire. While this is a common approach, it might not catch every nuance of how dyslexia presents in different people. Also, the study was done online, which is great for reaching lots of people. But it means they couldn't control every single aspect of the participants' environment. Plus, the researchers themselves mentioned that they continue previous published research on a similar topic, which is good science, but means this builds on existing work rather than being a completely standalone finding. But the strengths here are really significant. By using different presentation styles, they've shed light on how the format of information delivery impacts word order processing in dyslexia. This goes beyond just saying dyslexic people have trouble with word order and starts to pinpoint when and how that difficulty shows up. It suggests that interventions could potentially focus on different strategies depending on how reading is presented. Maybe emphasizing visual layout or grouping information in ways that reduce the burden of serial processing. For parents, educators, and individuals with dyslexia, this research offers a clearer picture of the specific cognitive processes at play. It highlights that the challenge isn't a lack of trying, but a different way of processing information that is particularly sensitive to the temporal sequence of words. Understanding these differences can lead to more targeted teaching methods and a greater appreciation for the complex cognitive landscape of dyslexia. It's a reminder that dyslexia is a spectrum, and each individual's experience can be unique. So, what is next? Well, the authors suggest that future research could use tools like eye tracking or brain imaging to see exactly what's happening in real time as people with dyslexia process these transposed words. This could help us understand even better how the brain handles language and identify even more specific ways to support learning. It's a complex puzzle, but every piece of research like this brings us closer to a full picture. Thanks for joining me on RUBIN'S Mind Lab. If you found this breakdown fascinating, give this video a like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next dive into the world of psychology and neuroscience. See you next time.